Jussie Smollett avoids justice. The media decides Hunter Biden's laptop may be real 2 years later. And Joe Biden calls for a new world order. I'm Yo Grabba Gabba. This is Cancel This Show. This is Cancel This, episode 29, recorded mid-April 2022. I'm your host, Yo Grabba Gabba. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything. You can like our Facebook page, facebook.com/Pavement Road Productions. You can email the show directly, pavementroadproductions@gmail.com. You can also share the post, subscribe right there on the YouTube channel. Share the post, tell your friends, and spread the word. A lot to get to today. We're going to try to get to all of it. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything. We also have a big week coming up. We have at least one reality TV show coming up, podcast coming out this week in the next couple of days. And we're also going to be doing a sports podcast as well in the next couple of days. So a lot to get to. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of it. And, let us know what you think. Tell your friends, share the post, and comment away. So let's start with the juicy details of it all for Jussie Smollett. So Jussie Smollett, of course, was convicted of lying to the police and making a false report with the whole hoax, right? The Jussie Smollett hoax. And he still said when he was convicted and sentenced, he said that he was not suicidal, and that, if anything happens to him in prison, he won't be, he won't not have done it to himself because he's not suicidal. And, he said he still to this day said he didn't do it. I mean, he's an actor, so I guess he's good at playing people that he's not or whatever, or good at, portraying things that didn't really happen and making them seem like they did happen. But, I mean, anybody with a brain saw this happening and there's no way this is real. And, of course, CNN and Kamala Harris and the Obamas were all over, Jussie, he's such a great guy, and, he's such a victim, and blah, blah, blah. And MAGA country deep in a polar vortex in Chicago, which, when 1% of the city votes for Trump in this deep MAGA country. And he gets quote-unquote assaulted, and they try to, lynch him, literally. And the whole time he didn't drop a Subway sandwich. So maybe he was just going for a gig to be the new spokesman of Subway. Because, Subway sandwiches are so great. I'll go through the polar vortex, in the middle of 2 a.m. and get mugged and still hang on to my Subway sandwich because it's that good. Yeah, okay, sure, fine. But he said the whole time he still says he didn't do it. So, of course, they're appealing. And when he appeals the conviction and the sentence, because they sent him 60 days in jail or 6 months in jail, whatever it was, 150 days in jail, and for it. And of course, I thought he'd get probation. I thought which everybody kind of thought he would, but the judge wanted to prove a point and gave him jail time, which I think is fantastic. You perpetuate stereotypes, and you say that people are being assaulted and beat up and by racists, and it's not true. You made the whole thing up, made up out of whole cloth. But now it turns out that you lied, and none of it was accurate. There should be consequences. There definitely should be. So the fact that the judge was sending him to jail is I think great. But of course he's a rich gay black man, and he's a liberal. So the four things that you need in society, the only thing he could be would be like a transgender Muslim, and he'd have it all. He'd be the ultimate, quote unquote victim. And he's a rich actor, and he's a liberal, and he's gay, and he's black. Right? So you talk about white privilege. He is the most privileged person to ever live. At this point. In 2020, 2021, 2022, in this era, in the 2020s, he is the most privileged person in America. Because he checks all the boxes. You can't criticize him in any way, or you're a racist, bigot, homophobe. So he committed a crime. He was convicted of the crime. He was released from jail, even though he was sent to jail. He was sentenced to prison. But he's going to get out because he's appealing, and it's going to take longer for the appeal than he would have been in jail. So the judge ordered his release until his appeal could be heard. So instead of him doing his time and getting out, he's going to appeal it, so that way it can be tied up in the courts, and he's hoping that they'll eventually will just change their mind and say, well, it's been 3 years or whatever. And he'll eventually get his name cleared, even though it's clear he did it. I mean, it's obvious. His family saying, if he was a white guy, he wouldn't be going to jail. And his attorney said, why are we marching black men into prison over this? Well, you should be putting white men in prison? I'm not sure. He committed the crime. Why is this? I mean, his race has everything to do with it. Of course, that's all it does. His race has everything to do with it. Because he's an elitist. He's a rich, gay, black man who's a liberal. That is the ultimate. Like, if you can commit a crime, be sentenced to jail, and then not go to jail. Or you can be accused of something, like, let's say the January 6th rioters. Accused of stuff they don't have enough to charge most of them with. So they're going to literally hold them up in court, put them in jail for over a year and a half at this point without setting them a trial. They're still trying to arrest people for it. Like, it's insane. Meanwhile, you have somebody who was convicted of a crime, sent to prison, and now, he's going to appeal, so we're going to let him out of jail while he appeals. I mean, if you think the appeal has a good chance of succeeding, fine. But it's clear he's guilty. I mean, it's clear. His family doesn't think so. But, like, even CNN and them, who covered for him, who said this is the most horrible hate crime we've ever seen, even though it's like, so, I mean, come on. Have you ever seen anybody, like, it's like you get shot and stabbed, or you get someone puts a noose around your neck and throws bleach on you in the middle of the winter in Chicago? In Chicago? In the middle of winter? Somebody's going to be wandering, looking for a gay black man? Trust me, nobody who sees him on the street knows who he is. Like, nobody cares. You're not that, nobody's going to see you say, he's gay and black, let's get him. Nobody knows. Especially if he's famous in Chicago, it's the people who like his show. Like, nobody who doesn't watch Empire knows who he is. I saw them. He was in the Mighty Ducks. I didn't even realize he was in the Mighty Ducks, the first one at least. And then they got better after that. But, like, I don't understand. It's obvious. It's obvious he's guilty, but let's let him out because he's, a rich victim. So justice is only for people who aren't rich or aren't quote-unquote oppressed. Justice should be charged with a crime. He should be charged with murder. Murder of the narrative of white privilege. Because he murdered the white privilege. He just killed it. White privilege is done. And if anybody ever says white privilege again, I'm going to point to Jussie Smollett. Or Smollett. Jussie Smollett. Right? Because you can commit a crime and get off if you're a gay, black, liberal who's rich. You can lie and lie and lie until the cows come home. Nobody will believe you, but hey, let him out of jail. He's fine. It's fine. Maybe he'll eventually be sent back after his appeal, but who knows? I'm surprised they convicted him at all, even though it's obvious that everybody has eyes. But we're being told in society today that don't believe your lying eyes, don't believe your lying ears, just listen to what we tell you. And there's enough idiots who were never taught anything like critical thinking skills to read between the lines and see what's really going on. And that's a big problem. Speaking of big problems, Hunter Biden's laptop. So obviously Hunter Biden's derelict son has a laptop, right? And his laptop was discovered a little before the election in 2020. So like November 2020. Maybe, let's say, October, September of 2020. And it was talked about on the news, talked about on, talk radio, Fox News, talk radio, and other places like that, other conservative outlets. But CNN completely buried it. It says, this is Russian disinformation. Because anything they disagree with is Russian disinformation. They had 50 former intelligence agents say it was Russian disinformation. I mean, the same Russian intelligence information that said Trump was clean with Russia. The same ones. Clapper and Brennan and all of them. Comey. So the people who lied to you for 4 years while Trump was president told you that, this is Russian disinformation. I think you're disinformation. I think everything you've ever said is disinformation. But CNN covered up. Washington Post got banned from Twitter for posting it. You couldn't share it with your friends because, it's disinformation. Even if it is. Like, the whole thing with censorship is garbage. If some people want to spread lies, they can spread lies. But it's only certain lies. Right? You can say things about biology that are simply untrue. And that's fine because you have the right narrative. You can make up inaccurate things about biology. You can make up inaccurate things about microbiology and viruses that are untrue, unfounded. As long as they're slanted the right way, you're fine. You can say them. You can post on Twitter, Joe Biden has cured cancer. You will not be taken down. You will not be fact checked. But if you say that Joe Biden's son's laptop is real, again, this is back in 2020. It would be pulled down, censored. You would not be able to say it. They wouldn't even put the little disclaimer on there. They would literally take it down for violating the terms of hacked information or misinformation. Now that Biden's safely been elected, they get rid of the orange man. He's still off Twitter. Now, maybe it is true. Well, we were finally able to verify it. Really? Why does anybody listen to you? Anybody listening to CNN, the IQ of anybody listening to CNN has to be like less than like a tadpole. There's got to be crayfish with more intelligence than a CNN viewer at this point. Either you are just so biased that you can't possibly see around it, or you just believe it to the end of time, or you're a moron to believe anything these idiots say. They had a disinformation summit at Chicago University, of course. The place to have a disinformation summit, right? Justice Smollett committed his crimes. But they had a disinformation summit, right? And of course, it's in Democratic headquarters, right? They're gonna have the DNC in 2024, I guess, in Chicago, right? I mean, it's certainly a swing state. Certainly, Illinois is certainly a swing state. Chicago, where 99.9% of the people vote Democrat. Yeah, totally. So they don't like hearing things that they don't agree with, right? That's why all the headquarters are, CNN is in Atlanta, which is, Atlanta itself is deep blue. Georgia's a red state, maybe purple, but definitely more red. And then they have New York for all the other networks. They have California, DC, all very blue areas, right? So Chicago, right? Another one. So they don't venture outside they don't talk to anybody who disagrees with them ever. So no wonder they don't hear anything else. It's way hard to be conservative because you hear the media, you hear people who disagree with you in every facet of your life. Corporations at this point. You hear people who disagree with you at every facet of your life. Anyways, so they have a disinformation summit and they get called out for, hey, why did you guys make up why did you run with the Russia collusion hoax? Why did you run the Justice Smollett hoax? Said it was credible. You just make up stories. You have a quote unquote expert who's on your payroll say something that, that's true. And then you say a source close with information says, well, why don't you reveal that source's name? It's because you keep using the same person's name over and over again, and they're always just telling you what you want to hear. Well, eventually people will stop believing that person. But that's why you have to use, reliable sources or anonymous sources or sources with information. sources close to it. And just your own people recycling through the same information. What are you talking about? All that being said, they got called out actually by a freshman student saying all this. Why'd you make all that stuff? And Brian still said, well, that's not the network I listen to. This is a narrative on the left, a narrative on the right. The right wing media likes to talk about that. CNN lies. Blah blah blah. I'm like, but you're not denying that you made all this stuff up. So, oh, that's not the network I watch. Well, you probably don't watch your own show. So, no, I mean, your mother probably does. It's the only person who watches your show, Brian. I can't believe he's still there. Like, I swear, when all the sexual harassment stuff went down, they were hoping that Brian Stelter wasn't so unattractive. Because if he was, they were really hoping that he would have been the one they could have said was sexually harassing people. So they could have fired him and saved the other shows that had ratings. But they had the worst rated show, and he's the only one left. Unless they want to turn over their entire staff, he's like the only one left who's not involved in some sexual harassment scandal or whatever. He's a clown, absolute clown. And then they had something else from a newspaper or whatever saying that Hunter Biden's laptop has nothing to do with, it's because he has some shady business dealings or some pictures of himself in inappropriate positions. Shouldn't affect who the president is. Well, put it this way: if it was Don Jr. or Ivanka or Eric Trump, it would have been the headline for 30 years. They would still be talking about it even after the election, even after he quote unquote loses the election. They'd still be talking about it today. So don't tell me it's not interesting. But of course, they're all talking about him taking pictures of himself or him having business deals. What about the part where it says 10% for the big guy? Who's the big guy? I mean, we've had people come out and say that person is Joe Biden. How come we don't ask questions? Oh, how come we don't ask questions about who the big guy is in the reference in the emails, right? How come we don't want to know this? It's not important. It's not quote unquote interesting, or does it affect your narrative? If Joe Biden's corrupt, like 89.9% or 100% or basically all of the other politicians in Congress, how are congressmen multimillionaires? They make $200,000 a year and make more than some athletes. Have more money than some athletes. More money than some entertainers. How? If you make $200,000 a year, how are you that rich? I'm so confused. Everything's being done above board. Well, they don't want to look into it. They don't want to know. I mean, if Joe Biden's been doing everything above board his entire career, for his entire 147 years in Congress, even if he has been, and he has paid no money, I mean, let's do some math here, right? How long would him be worth as much as he's worth? I mean, he's got 4 houses. He's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. At least let's say he's at least worth $20 million. At least he's got to be, right? So he makes $200,000 a year after taxes. It takes him 100 years to be worth $20 million. That's interesting. That's weird. I mean, I guess that the math works then. He's been in Congress for 100 years, so I guess it makes sense. But that also means he hasn't spent $1 out of his salary in that time. That's stuff we don't want to know, though, right? I mean, instead, Biden talked about how he releases his tax information on time, early, so, during the election. So Trump doesn't want to release it because Trump's hiding something. Well, Biden's tax information was released. Nobody dove into it until recently, and they found out there's all these discrepancies. He made all kinds of money from speaking and book deals. The books didn't sell anything, and nobody paid for him to speak because he can't speak. But he got all his money somehow. The corruption's out of this world. But of course the media is involved in it, so it's hard to. It's like investigating yourself. I mean, Justin Trudeau in Canada just ordered that if you're a media company, you have to get a license so you're not spreading misinformation. Now, the government is going to give you a license to cover the government. You can report on what the government's saying if the government approves it. You can report on the government if the government says it's okay. And they've given out all kinds of contracts, and licenses. And they also paid off members of the media. So they had basically a media bailout. So they gave all these. It was like Obama with the banks, the bailout of the banks. Some of the banks didn't want the money because they knew there would be strings attached. Obama said, "Well, you're taking the money." So they took the money, and now the strings attached. So that's exciting. And again, it's similar here. I mean, they're trying to crack down on sources they disagree with. The thing are misinformation. Even if it is, again, people should be able to see it and read through it. There's a lot of things CNN says I think are BS. Am I asking that you take down CNN's information? No. MSNBC is just a lying organization. They just spew propaganda and lies. Why is Joy Reid employed? Joy Reid everything is racist. She hates everybody who doesn't look like her. Hates them. Or think like her. Am I asking her for her to be canceled, her show to be taken down? No. Because the market will dictate. Nobody watches Joy Reid's show. Her ratings are probably worse than CNN. Probably worse than Brian Stelter, his only viewership is his wife and his mother. But the market will take care of that. But instead, we can't let that happen because more people watch YouTube than CNN. And CNN doesn't like that. So we have to take down the YouTube channels, obviously, because it's misinformation. Even if it is, there's maybe some truth to it. And who are you to say? If everybody wants to believe the sky is green, that's their right. A lot of them do. There's a lot of crazies out there. We know this. They also said the other person on there said that it's not interesting, right? They said it's not interesting that what Hunter Biden's up to or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Again, if it was Trump, it would be interesting. It'd be very, very interesting, of course. But not only all that, but they're focusing on with his pictures and his drug use. Oh, he's a troubled child, and well, he's 50 years old, dude. He's not a child. Okay, and when his father said he has nothing to do with his dealings, he's never talked to him about his business. Well, there's evidence on this laptop that says that's not true. There's lots of evidence that that's not true. So, and the student asked question, you point out 16% of Biden voters said if they knew about the laptop, they wouldn't have voted for Biden. That's true. But then the media knew that, so that's why they covered it up. So now that Biden's safely in the White House, they got rid of Trump, they can report the facts again. And they couldn't verify it, right? It's like, well, we couldn't verify it, so we're going to err on the side of that's not true. Or do your job as a journalist and verify it, or even option C, which also would have been better than option A, is say, we have unconfirmed reports. Right? Report it and then say, people are saying it's Russian disinformation. Give people information, let them figure it out themselves. Instead of not covering the story, cover it and say, hey, it's Russian. It's being called Russian disinformation, and say why it's being called Russian disinformation. But you can't do that. You have to just hide the story. You have to bury the story because you're a propagandist. And they said they called Nick Sandmann a white supremacist. He wasn't. He sued them. He won, or they settled out of court. And he's a multi-millionaire now because of them. So I guess that's good. But the laptop is real, and now that Biden is in the White House, and he's failing on every level, we can say, we can say it's fine now. So when Trump says it's a rigged election, I mean, there's so many things that go into that not just, people counting ballots wrong or making up ballots or whatever. I mean, Pennsylvania, the election was conducted against their constitution, in violation of the state constitution. Okay, that's one. Two, all the rules were changed. So if you say it was the most secure election of all time, there's no way that's possible, because the first time we ran this with these rules. And three, the media was lying and covering things up the entire time. Big tech, they all conspired together. If the roles were reversed, let's say, how something is, you can always tell if something's true or not based on if the roles were reversed. If the roles were reversed, information came out about Don Jr. or Eric or Ivanka doing something like what Hunter is doing. They found a laptop that Don Jr. left at a repair shop, and it's pictures of him with hookers doing cocaine, naked, and has got emails in there talking about how he's collecting money from foreign dignitaries and saving some of that money for his father. If that was a Russian disinformation, if it had Russian disinformation, it was proven Russian disinformation, the media was still running with it. You can't tell me they wouldn't. There's no way they wouldn't have run with it. Even if they knew it wasn't true, they would have run with it. So now there's information that could be true, maybe isn't true. Turns out it definitely is true, but we're going to not run with it because it could hurt Biden. We don't want that. We don't want it to hurt Biden. All the spying, all the lying by the left, the Democrats. But it's okay because it's, orange man bad. We can have all the inflation, all the crap we have going on right now in the country, but at least there's no mean tweets. Unbelievable. Absolutely insane. And the fact that it's okay. I mean, I've always said, if the shoe was on the other foot, how would you feel? Well, the shoe's on the other foot because we're not stupid enough to let that happen. If everybody on the left was being cut off, was being taken off of Twitter, the Babylon Bee, Washington Post, New York Post, Trump, other conservatives being taken off Twitter. There's outspoken anti-Semite terrorists who are on Twitter. But you say that you disagree with how many genders there are. You say you don't think that you say everything about the vaccine. Disagreeing with its efficacy, which turns out again might be truer than they want to believe. Because we were getting all these boosters now. If it was supposed to be just a one-time thing, apparently not. But you can say that stuff, and you get kicked off Twitter, off social media. But don't you dare say that. But you can say, whatever you want about other things that are governmentally approved. Imagine if the roles were reversed. Imagine if everything a Biden said had a fact check on it. Everything that Democrats were being kicked off. What if the New York Times or CNN or other organizations, prominent, what if Anderson Cooper was kicked off Twitter? Or other leftists were kicked off Twitter? Would you be saying the same thing? Would you be complaining, wouldn't you? See, I don't like when people are treated badly no matter who they are, if I agree with them or not. I believe in justice. So it's a bad thing, they get what they deserve. But I don't think people should be prosecuted or persecuted because I disagree with them. We can't have a country that way. We can't have a country that says, "Oh, you disagree with us, you can't speak. We're cutting out your tongue." That's not acceptable. We can't coexist that way. Hunter Biden's laptop is real. It has been real from day one. All these other people reported on it, but it was bad for Biden, so he had to cover it up. That's messed up. That's a problem. And the people who are responsible for that need to be held accountable. Do not watch their shows. Do not give them money. I mean, CNN Plus just launched, right? CNN Plus, because CNN, you can't get enough lies, so you have to pay for extra. And they already cut the price in half because nobody's buying it. Because, airports don't subscribe to it, and doctors' offices don't subscribe to it. They're not gonna pay extra. And those other people, if the only time you see CNN is if you're in a doctor's office or an airport. So, unless you're, and so they're not gonna see it. So all their viewers are people who are sitting in it who can't get up to turn the TV on. They're literally captive audiences. So no wonder nobody's paying extra. They don't want to see what they're getting to begin with. But it's okay. They can just lie. They can just say whatever they want to say. Because they're on the left. They're the elites. They're the liberals. They went to college. I went to college too. I got my head stuffed with all kinds of crap. I fought it every step of the way. And came out better on the other end. I got a useless piece of paper from a liberal institution that I can't use to do anything with. I'd be better off wiping my ass with it. But CNN, MSNBC, again, all these people sign letters. This is Russian disinformation. How is it Russian? Oh, because Russia elected Trump. No, Russia paid for some Facebook ads to influence the election. They didn't hack the voting machines. And of course, as soon as it came out, it's Russian disinformation. Well, why? Oh, because it's Russian disinformation. If you disagree with anybody, like even now, if you don't say, I want to nuke Russia, I want war with Russia, I want to nuke Russia and start World War III because Putin's bad. If you don't say that, you're a Russian prop. You're promoting Russian disinformation. You're a Putin stooge, or a pooge, I guess you could say. If you disagree, it's like a racist is anybody who disagrees with a liberal. Same thing. A Russian spy, a Russian propagandist is anybody who doesn't parrot the company line. Finally, we're going to talk here about the Joe Biden call for a new world order. This is pretty interesting. So in one of his speeches, which are always a disaster, right? It's like in one of his gibberish press conferences, everything he says, the White House has to walk back. I mean, he's not. I mean, the fact people think he's the president of the United States. I mean, he's the president in name, but he's not actually running anything. He's not in charge of anything. Everything he says, his people, quote unquote, have to walk back. I mean, he said, Putin can't remain in power. So we're talking about, is there going to be a calling for regime change in Russia? Well, then Putin uses that, like, see, they're coming after me, to strengthen his efforts, using it as propaganda. Because Biden said something off the cuff, didn't make any sense, and then they had to walk back. No, that's not what he meant. That's not what he meant. It's about troops going to Russia. No, we're not sending troops to Russia. I mean, he hasn't given a press conference. He's given what? One in 2022? One in 2022? One this year? And a scripted State of the Union address, which was just full of absolute garbage and lies. You can't let him speak. But in one of his press conferences, he talked about, there's a new world order coming. We have to be in charge of it. We have to get ahead of it and be, and lead it. Joe hasn't led anybody ever in his life. He's been a crappy senator from a small state, and the only reason anybody knew his name is because he became vice president under the first black president because they wanted an old white guy for stability. They had a young black guy and they needed an old white guy for stability. The only reason anybody knows his name. Disaster. So he talked about a new world order, how we need a new world order. Of course, what that means, and again, he always says things, and he whispers, "Give them more, pay them more." Yes, Satan. He always says stupid things, whispers things, is creepy, and so he says, a new world order. Of course, he's not supposed to talk about those things, because all the things, inflation, inflation, right? He was talking about inflation, and a bird pooped on him. I mean, if that's not the sign, if that's not, the Joe Biden presidency, I don't know what it is. He's lying through his teeth, and a bird craps on him. And he doesn't even notice it because he's not even there. He's just a hologram. But, talking about inflation. Inflation's not happening. Okay, it is happening, but it's transitory. It's not going to be here long term. Okay, it is going to be here long term, but it's good. Okay, it's not good, but it's Putin's fault. With the Putin price hike, get the hell out of here. Price has been spiking since you took office. Because of your policies, because you're garbage. But of course, he's talking about the New World Order, which of course is the Great Reset, right? The ESGs, it's something it's another one of those things where it's not happening, or the quote unquote "don't say gay" bill, right? Which of course is not what it is. It's the Parental Rights in Education bill, which it says that teachers can't indoctrinate students into woke ideology. There's no reason to go through and say, when a transgender teacher says, "I'm a transgender, and my gender was randomly assigned at birth." No, it wasn't. It was not randomly assigned at birth. They didn't just pick a color, blue or pink, and put that on your bassinet. That's not what happens. So you tell it to first graders, and first graders are like, "Wait, what? So I'm not really a boy, I'm not really a girl." They're confused because they don't know. And that's cool. Or the point is to confuse them. But you can't talk about that in Florida. They didn't want that in Florida. Because if you're going to talk to kids about something that they can't understand, they're going to be confused. And then when they are confused, you're not going to tell their parents that they're confused. You're just going to try to get them to switch genders. But it's not happening. They're not talking about that in school because teachers are saying they are. It's funny because you say that they're not talking about it in school. It's not an issue. If it's not an issue, then why are you talking about it? Why are you making a big deal? Why are you trying to get Disney to go against it? Why are you trying to have Disney have all this woke stuff in their videos and movies and TV shows to try to counter Disney, to try to counter Florida, because they're the biggest employer in Florida, and you're trying to get them to and they're bringing a lot of revenue for Florida, so you're trying to get them to fight back against the quote unquote "don't say gay" bill. So you're trying to get them to join the fight for something that's not actually happening. It's weird. It's weird that you spend all that time and effort to get something to stop something that's not happening. Before teachers say it is happening, let's say now I can't talk about me and my husband, me and my gay husband, me and my gay lover. We can't talk about that on the weekends. It was weird because when I was growing up, I didn't know anything about my teachers. I didn't care. My job wasn't to know if my teacher was single and ready to mingle, or if he or she was straight or gay. I didn't know, and I didn't care. I didn't even know they had a house. They were always there when I got there, and always there when I left. I figured they lived there. I didn't know. I was a freaking kid. Second, third grade. I didn't know. It was my job to know. It was my job to learn. And so why is the teachers think that they're more important than they are? Of course. You're supposed to teach them things, and that's it. You're not supposed to talk to them about your life and explain how you see the world to them. That's not your job anywhere, ever. It's your job to teach the curriculum, teach the material. All these kids know their teacher's blood type, but they can't tell you what 2 + 2 is. Right? So of course but that's not happening. I can tell you, someone who was in college more recently, maybe some other people, it is happening. I can tell you political leanings of pretty much every teacher or professor I had from college through high school. I can tell you probably all their political ideologies, all their political leanings. Some of them hit it, and that was good, and I appreciated that. But most of them didn't, and most of them weren't on my side. So it's funny because you say, you can preach all this ideology. Well, how about the person who doesn't see the world that way you do? Oh, it's effective, because we want to be able to relate to the students on their level. Oh yeah, but when you tell them something that they don't believe in is true, like a man is a woman is a man. When you tell them something they don't believe, or you tell them that, oh yeah, Democrats are great, you should always vote for Democrats, or all these things. Republicans are racist and they hate gays and all this stuff. Like when you're saying that to somebody and you're like, wait, my parents are like that. Well, your parents are racist. Your parents are uninformed. Like, that was stuff that we heard in school. We heard in college. We heard in high school. That, don't listen to your parents. They're your grandmas are old, probably an old white racist, right? Your grandpa's probably an old white racist. No, actually, my grandpa's not. My grandpa's a great dude. But that's okay. That's fine. No big deal. But that person who you're now saying that their parents and their family are evil because they're racist or because they're white, for God forbid. Your grandfather worked in a plant, so he's not educated, so he's a racist because he's white. Trust me, my grandpa was a white dude, but he wasn't that white. Okay? He wasn't that white. He would have been confused for not a white guy. That's for sure. But we want to make the students relate, right? We want them to relate, and we want them to be able to come to us when they have questions. Well, when you say my grandpa's a racist and you never met the man, I don't trust you. So why don't you keep your damn politics out of it? How about because we want to feel like you can come talk to me. I don't feel like I can talk to you. You insulted my family. You insulted me for having an opinion that's different than yours. But we don't see it that way. I mean, the people who we disagree with are evil anyways. We don't like them. Right? The right knows there's a lot of people they disagree with, and they're okay with it. The left knows there's people who disagree with them, and they're evil. That's how they see it. The left sees their opponents as evil. The right sees their opponents as crazy. Big difference. But I think you're a little bit nuts. Way different than I think you're really evil. But again, the critical race theory is not being taught in schools. It's not being taught. It's a lens through which things are taught. You're teaching things through that lens. So it's not something that's being taught in schools. It's a way to explain things through a lens. So instead of saying, hey, America's great, and let's talk about the greatness of America, or talk about things through the lens of America being great. Let's talk about the fact that it's evil and racist. So it's not being taught. So they're banning it, but it's not being taught in schools. But it's a framework, right? You're framing your things, framing what you're saying through that lens. I mean, math is racist now, right? Because getting high math scores, usually it's Asian kids and white kids who get the highest math scores. So it must be racist. Because the math numbers don't like black people, apparently. Right? So that's not happening. So we got to get rid of that. We can't have that happen. But it's not happening, And then also, they're not talking about, sexual orientation in schools. It's funny because in the 1980s, like less than 1% of the population identified as LGBTQ, IA, W, X, Y, Z. In 2022, about 18% of the population identify as a non-traditional cisgender. So that's weird. So in 40 years, for the history of the world, from recorded history till 1980s, about less than 1% of the population identified as gay or some variation. In the 40 years that followed, that number jumped to 20%. It jumped from less than 1% to almost 20%. It's 20 times more than it was. Well, that's strange. Biology is really weird, right? Like the executive from Disney who said, I have two children, both of them are queer. One's pansexual, one's transgender. Well, the odds of them being born that way, the odds of you having two children who are both LGBT, I mean, the odds of you having one is less than one, is theoretically 1%. Now it's higher because, again, the numbers have gone up for some reason. Can't tell you why. But even the odds of that, your odds of having one is maybe 18%. The odds of you having 2 kids that are 100% is, it's infantile. It's microscopic, the odds of that. But you're an activist for gay rights, and now both your kids happen to both be born that way. Get out of here. It's ridiculous. It's indoctrination, and you're shoving stuff in their heads. There's no other way to explain it. Because it's, in society, it's bad to be white, but it's good to be gay. So if you can be white and gay, you're okay because you get rid of your white guilt by being gay. Or you're not special because everybody gets a trophy. So if you want to be special, you should be, might be a trans. Or you're not special because everybody, because you're just one of the, you're just one of the group, and you're kind of a jerk. But if you come out as gay or non-binary or whatever, that you can't be criticized now. You can do anything you want. You can't be criticized. It's weird. So there's almost like an incentive, right? To be part of that community. But yeah, we don't want to tell your parents about it because they may not understand. Hell, I'll tell you what, if somebody's gonna understand, it's gonna be the parent. And it's the parent's right, not the teacher's right, not the counselor's right, not the principal's right, not the school board's right, it's the parent's right. You can't vote, you can't drink, you can't smoke, you can't go to war, but you can change your gender without parental consent. But it's not happening. It's just all hypothetical, of course, right? It's not happening. That's why we don't need a bill against it. If we don't need a bill against it, then a bill that does nothing is fine, right? Because what's the difference? Why are you so upset about a bill that's stopping nothing from happening? Because it is happening and it's good, according to the left. So they're not mad that the bill was invented. They're mad that the bill's invented and stopped them from doing what they wanted to do. Also, so all of this again is part of the thing. ESG, the environmental, social justice, and governance. It's not happening. It's a conspiracy theory. It's not happening. What's weird though, because at the World Economic Forum, the two lead speakers were Dr. Fauci. What does he know about economics? He shut down the economy for 2 years under his order, under his decree, and Xi Jinping, the chairman of the People's Republic of China, the leader of the People's Republic of China. That's weird. It's weird that like a communist and somebody who's killed the economy in the biggest country in the world are the two lead speakers at the World Economic Forum. And they've been pushing this stuff for a long time. You can't work with a person, at the ESG. That's why they want to have digital dollars, right? This is all might be going to get a little bit convoluted. So I don't want to go too down this rabbit hole without having too much time to go through it. But the whole idea is you can't associate with somebody who has a low ESG score. Right, so a bank can't give you a loan because they have a low ESG score, and the bank doesn't want to be held responsible for what you do. Right? What is the ESG score? It means environmental score. So, your company who is an oil company, natural gas oil company. Well, we don't like natural gas. We like windmills and solar panels. So a gas company has a lower environmental score than a windmill or solar company. And now you're a building that runs on gas and not solar panels. So you as a company are not as low as a gas company, but you have a lower ESG score than somebody who has solar panels on the roof. Because your environmental score is lower. And now if you're a person who associates with those companies, you're a person who buys a lot of products from those companies, again, score is not as low as the company itself, but it's lower than it would be if you only invested in companies who have solar panels on the roof. If you only spent your money with people who have solar panels on the roof, with companies that have solar panels on the roof, that's why they want to have a digital dollar, just so they can track every transaction that happens. They say, it's to help with this and that. No, it won't. It's so you can track every dollar. And you can put in your metric and say, okay, here's your score. right? Social, again, if you're giving money to Black Lives Matter, you're high in the social score. If you follow conservative outlets who are against social justice, their scores are going to be really low, and yours is going to go down because you're following them, because you're giving money to right-wing causes. You're watching. You're giving money to Daily Wire or The Blaze or Fox News, who aren't approved by the government. So now your social justice score is going to go down. And governance, do you say bad things about the government? Do you think the government is bad? Do you think the world order, the order that they want everybody now, all the countries, all the economic countries who are first world countries? Do you think that they're bad? Do you think the government is you go out and speak out against the government? That's going to hurt your government score. So they give you a total score of the 3 categories, and that's what happens. Now, if you're trying to open a business, but you're an outspoken critic of the government, you don't have solar panels on your roof, and you're against social justice, you're against Black Lives Matter, you think Black Lives Matter is a scam because it is, because one of the founders bought a $6 million mansion, so you think that's kind of a scam, and you say it, now anybody who does business with you is going to lose it, you have their score go down until you're out of business. Because the government can pick winners and losers. And again, you can't do international business because they're going to try to get all the G20 to be a part of this. They want all the national, all the countries that are a part of this organization. The World Economic Forum, the Paris quote unquote climate accord, which had almost nothing to do with climate, everything to do with economics. Right? So you can't do international business because they're all in on this together. They're all working together on this. It's ridiculous. It's insane. It's madness. But hey, let's all work together. We need to unify. And again, you don't think this is happening. Look at what happened in Canada. You gave money to the truckers. They shut down your account. You're fined if you want to give money to the truckers. You could lose. They published who gave money to the truckers. The businesses who donated $10 to the trucker convoy, who was against lockdowns in Canada, their information was published so people could boycott or burn their businesses down. They wouldn't do that for people who donated to Black Lives Matter, did they? But if you see the world a certain way, you're not welcome. That's what Biden was talking about when he said unification. I knew what he meant when he got inaugurated. He said unification. He meant unifying thoughts. You must see things and think the way we think, or you're a bad person. You're not welcome. Unification. So Biden's New World Order, that's what he means. He means that you have to see the world the way we do. You have to join up with us in this, World Economic Forum and participate in how, in the plans to have all the major, most powerful countries in the world working together to support left-wing causes. Freedom be damned. And it's funny because I was saying earlier, right? If you say something, I'm all for people I disagree with speaking. I hate when you see this, a conservative goes to a college campus to speak and they get booed off stage. Like, in my hometown, Alan West was shouted off stage and had his life and his family threatened in my hometown, in a college campus in my hometown, by Black Lives Matter. Alan West, okay, called a Nazi and a white supremacist and a fascist. He's black. His whole family's black. But Black Lives Matter is against him because I guess his black life doesn't matter. Because they're threatening his life. Isn't that funny? I guess does Black Lives matter or not? But if you disagree, you're thrown out of society. I think if you're a Nazi, if you're a communist, if you're a socialist, if you're a fascist, come speak. Tell us what you think. You can try to convince us. And guess what? If the problem is not enough people have critical thinking skills, but if they did, they'd see, wow, this is kind of ridiculous and kind of crazy. I don't want to be a part of this. But hearing it directly from the person, instead of shutting them up, instead of cutting out their tongue so they can't argue with you, listen to them, make an argument. Disagree. That's fine. You don't have to, everybody, just because somebody speaks and you listen to them, doesn't mean you have to agree with them. But your minds are mush, and you can't hear something and have a rebuttal, because everything you hear you have to agree with. So if somebody comes and they're saying things that are insane, anti-Semitic, whatever, you have to shut them down. You can't just hear them and say, "Wow, this person's crazy." They should say this more often so more people will see how crazy they are. But no, you have to shut them. You have to silence them. If somebody breaks the law, and I like them, they broke the law. If somebody didn't break the law and I don't like them, they didn't break the law. What I mean is, what's right is right, what's wrong is wrong. I've said this so many times on this show. What's right is right, what's wrong is wrong. If you did something right, you did it right. If you did it wrong, you did it wrong. That's it. There's nothing else to it. There's no need for, there's different sets of laws for different kinds of people. And that's not right. It's so important for me. I think one thing I really think is really important is to understand that, and I said it before, and I'll say it again. I said people will shout down, conservatives. People, you can tell somebody who's really, really smart, who's never had a job, right? They've only been in college. They've been at career college when they're 23, 24, 25 years old. They never had a job because they talk differently, they act differently. The only people they've ever talked with are academic types. And I know several people like this. They talk to people like they're like, either talk to people like they're stupid, or they don't know how to communicate or be professional. So they've never had to be professional. Insulting people and calling and name calling and that kind of stuff. It doesn't help the situation. It makes you look like an idiot. Make an actual argument. Tell me why there's 12 genders. Tell me why. Explain it. I'll probably get banned from YouTube for saying that, but I'd love to know. Give me a reason. Instead of telling people they can't speak and shutting them up, give them a reason. By the way, the person who shot the subway in New York City had a YouTube channel. He was a black nationalist. He spewed his propaganda and his hate all over YouTube. YouTube didn't shut him down. But if you talk about the vaccine in an unfavorable light, you talk about how many genders there are, and disagree, and disagree with the narrative, they shut you down. But you can say how white people, black people shouldn't be allowed in the same hemisphere of the globe. And there needs to be basically a race war. When you're calling for that as a black person on YouTube, hey, no big deal. How about you don't silence people? How about you let people speak, and if they're crazy, the craziness will come out. And you can say, wow, I'm glad I heard that person speak. I don't want to be on that side. And you can argue, and you can debate. That's the whole point. I don't want people shut down who I disagree with. I want them to say what they need to say, and I can argue with them. I can tell them why they're wrong. But cutting out their tongue doesn't help anybody. I've said if you wouldn't like it, we need to go back to do unto others as you'd have done to you, right? If you think somebody, Trump's complaining about Twitter being a place where people's speech is censored. Oh, shut up, Karen. Well, if it was you, if every time you said something that people on Twitter disagreed with and you got shut down, you got silenced, you got censored, what would you do? Because I guarantee you wouldn't be okay with it. I guarantee you'd be the Karen complaining. But since it's your enemies, people you disagree with, that's fine. I said before, during COVID, if they said everybody who, doesn't want to get vaccinated or this or that, or people who vote a certain way has to come in, we're putting on a train and taking it away. I bet you the left, if it was the right who were being taken away, the left say, okay, good, we don't need them anymore. We don't need them. They're crazies. And then half the country's gone, and they're like, oh, well, they're the bad half. We don't like them anyways. We don't want people in the world who see things like us. There's a lot of people I associate with who are weird, who are crazy, who are out there, who are eccentric. A lot of them. And I think they're awesome. I disagree with a lot of them. But that's the spice of life. And when it's so funny because if you have a certain worldview and that is always reflected back to you, and you never hear anybody say anything else, and they only say your own, they repeat they say what you think. There's a lot of people I listen to who I disagree with. People who think Trump is great, people who think Trump is terrible, blah blah blah. People who think that Republicans are great, people who think Democrats are great. I listen to all sides. I hear all sides, and I disagree with some of it. I agree with some of it. But that's how you form your own opinion. Certain people say certain things. I'm like, that's just dumb. I'd like 85% of what they say, but that's stupid. I don't agree with that. And they make an argument, and sometimes they convince me, sometimes they don't. Sometimes it reaffirms my convictions of what I believe in. But if you take that away, it's like we have only a left, right? Only the left can have their own opinions and everything like that. Okay, well, you know what's going to happen? It's what's already kind of been happening. There's the left, and COVID's going to kill us all. They think, and racism is the biggest threat in America, and there's economy is economic downturn is caused by Putin. Because Russia's terrible, and Ukraine's great. Well, actually, there's no it's not that binary. It's never that simple. But everyone has to make it simple. It has to be a good guy and a bad guy. Republicans are bad. Democrats are good. Or Republicans are good. Democrats are bad. It's not that way either. People are people. It's funny. You watch sports. The person next to you can disagree with everything you say politically, but they like your favorite sports team. So you have that in common. There's so many more things that we have in common than we have separate. And if you tell the people that you disagree with that they can't speak, you're hurting yourself more than anything. Because if you look at the current Democrat Party, you have Joe Manchin, Kyrsten Sinema in the same party as AOC and Ilhan Omar and Bernie Sanders. It's the same. It's literally the same party. I mean, Bernie Sanders identifies as an independent, but other than that, I mean, it's the same party. And independent usually means you're down the middle, and of course, Bernie's not. But yeah, again, it's the same party. So how does the person who thinks Joe Manchin's great also think AOC's great? Because the party splits. There's always a split, right? You want to unify the power under one group of people, but people always have different ideas. So even if there were no Republicans, for a little while the Democrats would be riding along, and be good. But eventually they would split. There'd be a far left and a middle left, a moderate left. And there's a far right and moderate right. And it's funny because the people on the far left I thought it was wonderful. People on the far right thought it was crazy. It's the same thing. I mean, they're both on the poles. They're both the far and the extremes. But yes, let's unite around a new world order by the people who are running Joe Biden. People who are running Joe Biden can run us as well in a new world order that Biden talked about. I'd love to get that in more detail at some point. I'm not going to have any more time really today to do that, but it's when Joe Biden says there's a new world order coming, we need to lead it. Be very afraid. Be very, very afraid, because Joe Biden doesn't know what planet he's on. He's not leading anything. So people who are running him are looking to run your life as well. And I would tell him no. I would say no. I don't sign up for that. So obviously, with the elections coming up here in November, at the end of the year, the midterms, we'll see who takes control. If the Democrats can continue to have control, the Republicans have control. I feel like the Republicans are definitely going to sweep the House. I feel like it's going to be a huge red wave in the House. I think they'll take the Senate too, but the Republicans can blow it. They do a lot. They think that nobody agrees with them, so they want to go moderate because they want the media, because they hear the media say, oh, it's the only Republicans I like are Mitt Romney, right? He's not a Republican. I mean, he's a Republican in name only, but he's certainly not a Republican. And guess what? When Mitt Romney's running for president, he gets the nomination to be president. They hate him. He's a womanizer. Yeah, sure. The Mormon's a womanizer. Sure he is. He's not even vanilla. At least vanilla people like vanilla. Nobody likes Mitt Romney. But so he's got to be. We like him. We hate. John McCain was literally a Nazi when he was running for president. Before he was running for president, he was a moderate, and we liked it, and the mainstream liked him. And then when he was fighting with Trump, we liked him again. But when he was running for president, he was a Nazi. That's not okay. That's not acceptable. But the Republicans always are too afraid to tell the other side to just go screw themselves. Democrats all the time say, well, Obama said, well, if you're a Republican, you can be on the bus, but we're driving. You sit in the back. We're driving. We don't want your opinion. You can come along with us if you want, but we don't care about your opinion. Andrew Cuomo said there's no room for conservatives in his state. Well, he's screwing the interns, basically. Or playing grab ass with the interns. There's no room for conservatives here or gun owners. Well, said a tyrant. You have to agree with me and you can't have a gun, said the tyrant. I think I'll leave it there. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything. You can like our Facebook page, facebook.com/PaymentRoadProductions. Email the show directly, paymentproductions@gmail.com. Facebook, YouTube, subscribe right there on YouTube until I take it down. I said email directly, paymentproductions@gmail.com. We got a lot more coming up. We got a sports show coming out here soon. We got another reality TV, weekly reality TV show right now until summer, and a lot more to get to. So definitely keep it, subscribe and so you don't miss anything, and I'll let you know what you think. There's might be a news show or a sports show coming up here, again, maybe before the end of the month. So definitely keep that in mind. There's a political speaker coming to my area. I'm going to try to get tickets to go see as well. So if that does happen, I'll of course tell you all about it. But as I said, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything. We'll get all the content we have coming your way. And let us know what you think. Tell us in the comments and share the post. I said, my message is simple. We all should just work together. And if we disagree, who cares? Your enemy, your people you disagree with aren't your enemy. Okay? You may see the world slightly differently, but we're all in this together. We're all in this together. And let's keep that in mind as we move forward. As always, thanks for listening. Thanks for being part of the show. Thanks for sharing the post, comments. Love to get your feedback. Love to have even maybe a guest at some point here on this show. To share their thoughts. Thanks for everything. And until next time, bye, Dan.